Hang on, I got 2 new perk slots for stealth builds.
Sweet. I had 1, and I'm stunned. There we go. We're live now.
As long as you're... Wait, what the fuck?
There we go.
What is this perk? As long as you're unmasked and have rush, cameras can't detect you trespassing in private areas.
Yeah.
They will still detect you performing an illegal action. Okay, I'll put that on. That sounds really useful.
Just as long as you're within 1 meter of a
I'm
civilian.
gonna run, and I'm gonna run at 10% speed.
You're going to run. Run so far away.
And I ran.
What difficulty should we do it on?
Normal, because I suck.
Alright.
It's locked.
I'm listening to the audio right now.
I went totally off the grid. But when I heard the Payday gang was back in action, well, I knew it was safe to make contact. Shade filled me in on everything. She's a bloody good operator. You're lucky to have her.
So lock almost lost an eye.
Best that she's at the helm now. That's it. My bank account got drained, just like yours. Hard to hit golf balls on the beach if you can't afford a club. I still have contacts in low places. I can find you some meaty jobs, and we'll all make a cockspool. Sound good?
For instance, I've heard that.
A tech company called Quants is prepping to ship some micro-satellite
Ooh, micro-satellite prototypes?
An old rail yard on Roosevelt Island. They've rigged the place with all kinds of performed security measures. It's a challenging stealth op, but those satellites, they're worth a fortune. Think you can handle it, you chops? I know you can.
Oh. I think we could do it on hard.
You're gonna do it on hard.
Yeah. Like, there's no...
Okay.
I don't think it adds any cameras or anything. So, matchmaking. How many weapons can have a suppressor?
All of them.
Wait, even the revolver?
Oh, no, not the revolver. No. The revolver does not have a suppressor.
Oh, wait. Nah, I don't want to...
I usually just have a DMR, just put a... shotguns you can't have suppressors either.
No, wait. Oh, yeah, you can't. Wait, no, I think you can. No, I think you can. Oh, we're joining.
Oh, no, you can. Okay,
okay.
I have one on, I forgot.
Alright, I'm in the lobby, I'm waiting for you now.
Oh, yeah, it's my favorite player. No name.
Yeah.
He's level 0.
God, what a low... Level 1?
Yeah, I
Yeesh.
fucking suck at this game. I'm the worst.
It's still loading, actually.
I'm on the Series X. I didn't get it. Can the stream hear me?
I can?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah, they can hear.
Ah, joke's on you. I'm on 52. I gained an extra 51 levels.
In the loading screen while you were waiting for me.
Yeah, literally. I love how the select a loadout option is completely useless. They did not program it, like, at all.
Oh. We're going to Turbid Station. I mean, Turbid Station.
The hidden package, that's not. Yeah, they don't have hidden packages anymore. Actually, I think they were added later in Payday 2.
Yes. Oh, good. Where is my head?
Oh, they don't say. They didn't even record any lines.
What do you mean record any lines?
Like, you know how you ping something and they go, spotted a camera or something?
Oh.
They didn't record anything. Can't you go under the trains? I think from what I remember.
Ah.
Yeah, I remember. You can go under the trains. Yes.
Sweet.
About that.
Let's check the sewer area. This is cool. It literally just is the map.
Never know when you need one of those.
Ah, but this is...
No, they saw me with a key card.
Squads for you.
You already got caught. Are we literally... Yeah, we failed.
Fuck!
We just...
I didn't realize how far away they would see me.
How could you be so stupid?
Forced
We
to
actually
extract
restart?
it. Okay, it is. Okay, you want to restart?
Yeah.
Well,
We literally just started. And you
I didn't
immediately...
think he would see me.
He probably watched you do it.
Yeah, he did. I didn't think he would see me. Remember, this is 2023 game design. This game isn't detailed. Detail doesn't exist anymore. Detail was uninvented.
Rockstar, best I can do is Ghostbusters car. There you go.
Oh yeah, they added that. I forgot.
Frickin' Ghost Runner.
How do you crouch again? There.
Control?
No, it's B.
Stephen Hawkins ran this game better?
Excuse me? Ran
Yeah.
what better?
Stephen Hawking runs better than this game.
Those security drones are rigged with cameras. Don't let them spot you.
Hang on. Please don't spot me.
Hang on.
Yes! I didn't get caught. Where the fuck did you go?
I'm under the sewers round.
How the fuck did you go out of the sewers?
Well, actually, they're the tunnels, but there's just a red,
Oh,
a
there's a
blue
door
door
here.
upstairs. Hey, hey, you found the door. I came up from up there.
Oh, what? That's an entrance? No. Like I said, I don't really know anything about this heist.
I know a bunch about it,
Even
'cause
in Payday 2.
Watch the guard.
I stealthed this before, I think.
I think
Solo.
I had to for an achievement. You have to stealth this.
Yeah, we did do it for an achievement. Why'd you kill him? He flinched.
Because he was in the way. Yeah.
Everything alright over there?
There was a little
Watch
disturbance,
the
but
camera.
I took care of it. No
Ca-
need to worry.
cancer.
I'm on the case.
The guy got cancer and died.
Yeah, that was cancer.
Yeah.
Wait, if I have rush, hang on.
You can rush past the camera.
Wait, I'm trying to get rush. How do you
can
get
act-
rush?
You have to stand within a meter of a civilian.
Yeah, look, the camera can't see me. Oh no, it can. Okay, no one.
If you run for 3 seconds, you get rush.
Yeah, no, I have rush. That's what I'm saying. The camera didn't. The camera spotted me though.
Oh. I'm opening it.
Oh wait. Ooh, animation.
Oh yeah, they
Go
gave
again.
new animations too. I like how it doesn't matter where you're standing anyway.
These vents are a great way to move around.
Oh, can they see through the grates now?
Did they before?
I don't think so, no, because it was like too dark for them to see.
No, they don't. This fucking idiot.
You can't jump with the frickin'... Oh, right, with your
Casing.
mask off.
You're in casing mode.
But
Oh,
crouching and running.
that's why it didn't work, because I forgot you need your mask off. I forgot about that.
Oh,
that's
yeah.
That's why it didn't work.
You fool.
God damn it.
I know it's not meant... It's not scary, but I don't like stealth
Oh
heist.
shit!
The camera spot you.
I think we got this covered.
Can the camera turn around? Cool.
Okay, let's head up. I'm gonna put on my mask.
Oh shit, that's a
Let's do
civilian.
this.
Okay, I jumped up and immediately got spotted.
There's a guard.
Oh, wait.
Watch the
Oh.
camera.
When you
Oh,
mask
no, that's the
up...
camera room. Wait, I found the cameras. I found
Right.
an SSD.
When you mask up, that's when that's when you that's when they actually talk and point out
I
cameras.
see a camera.
They don't talk when they're in casing mode.
Okay, I'm in a bit of a kerfuffle here.
He's in a bit of a pickle.
Look out. I see.
Yeah, literally, yeah, that, okay. Oh, you made a move. think you're...
There's a camera though.
Oh, I know.
Let's go.
I'm hacking the mainframe. Beep beep beep.
It
boop,
says
boop,
right
beep.
click to secure loop.
Oh, wait, that just leads back outside. Don't go that way.
Okay, well, I don't
Unless
know
that's
how
where
much...
we need to go?
How long's it hacked for?
I don't know. Oh no. Not very long. I can't lockpick!
No,
Okay.
that one's fine. I'm being spotted.
Where the fuck am I? Here. Here. Get in here. Door.
Get in. Why is Pearl's pants so detailed?
Oh!
Hi.
Close the door! What
Close
am I
it.
make?
I found solar panels in a
There was like
box.
3 guys there. Wait,
Oh, there's a bagging animation. I forgot.
where
Hi.
did you go? Oh,
Hang
there was
on.
like 3 guys. Oh no.
What, is he actually blind? Why'd you do that? He could have just walked past.
He still would have spotted us.
Camera.
Oh, what camera? Oh shit!
Oh, shit. We have to quietly move. Shush,
Where
shush,
the
shush,
fuck do we
shush,
go?
shush. I'm
At the
bringing
train
these solar
panel.
panels back. Oh crap.
Oh, I
Stay
can
off
fix
the
it.
camera.
Why don't you have the hacking thing?
I do. It's
And
just
what if
like-
they spot it?
No, they only... If they do spotter, they just roam around. They're just like, something's going on here.
Do police?
Yeah, look,
spot-
see, they... Oh, wait, unless he found the hostage.
Oh god, if he found the
Wait.
hostage, I'm gonna be so pissed at you.
Wait, we don't know yet. We don't know.
That's one bag.
You still can't go in the van anymore.
Okay,
Is-
I think they're patrolling. Yeah, they're just patrolling. Alright.
Hang on,
That's
it
good.
would say searching.
Oh, yeah, wait. Well, they didn't find the hostage.
Then what
Well,
did they
I think
find?
that guy might have. No, he
What?
found... Oh, now he found the camera. Okay, he found a camera.
A suspicious object. Hang on.
That's my dildo.
So, oh, no, they just don't call out the drones. They don't say, it's a drone. Oh, for
Fuck!
God's
He
sake.
might have found the hostage!
You idiot.
Damn it! He found the hostage.
We suck at this.
No, it's just we suck at stealth.
Yeah, we suck at this stealth. God. How can we be so stupid? I guess we'll just try again.
That's the rail yard up ahead. Multiple entrances. Scope them out and choose carefully. Remember, you
Ah.
have to pull this job without tipping off Quant's
It's
security.
first
If
signed
it triggers,
YouTuber.
A kill signal will fry any prototypes within range.
Alan
The
Wake
two
2.
microsatellite prototypes are stored in
Oh yeah, that
separate
came out.
trains. When you get inside the yard,
Huh.
keep an eye
I'm
out for the ones with
infiltrating the
Quant's
yard.
logo. Quant's rigged up a security panel to each of their trains. Hack them to get inside.
When did that come out?
Alan Wake.
Yes.
This year.
It
It came out a month ago? 2 months ago? It didn't come. It came out not too long ago.
okay. What's it about?
It's a pain in the ass.
Okay, he didn't see me. Oh.
What's Alan Wake about?
No!
God's sake.
I was sandwiched between 2 guys.
Somehow that's the second fastest we've been spotted.
I was. No, that was the first.
No, the other time was somehow even
Was the
when you
first
grabbed the
time
key
faster?
card. When you grabbed the key
No, the
card.
thing is, I grabbed the key card, and then the guy was coming to me. I went to hide under the train, and then another guard found me under the train.
Okay, that might have been the fastest then. Yeah.
Another guard just randomly found me under the train.
Is it because we're on hard? There's no way that's making it so difficult.
Security catches on,
It's just we
they'll
suck
break
at
the
stealth.
prototypes
Oh, no, stealth in this game just sucks.
No. I guess with no detection meter or whatever, but it does let it be that people who have hard or loud builds, they can still manage.
It's a guard.
Oh wait, yeah, they just don't point out drones. They still talk, but not at drones.
Got drone cameras patrolling the rail yard.
Yeah, I was like, they didn't record any new lines.
The future is now.
How
Really? I
unfortunate.
thought the future was back then.
Hang
When
on.
VR was added.
We might find a use for it.
Hang on, do I have
How do you open
micro
trains?
Is there like a keypad on the side? Oh, I have a motion detector.
No.
Do you have to just go up to the handles and open it?
Yeah, I remember you can still go under the trains. Yeah. Oh!
I
You
thought that
can
was
see
me
me.
being
Oh.
spotted.
I'm under the train.
You're in a private area? You're not supposed to
Hack the-
be in here.
What do you mean hack the... Oh, wait, I found the control panel. Wait.
Bags or hide bodies. These
Oh.
guys should come in
Is
handy.
this it?
Oh,
No, I lied. That is not the control panel.
move bags or hide bodies. The bench should be helpful.
Is
Okay.
it this one? It is not that one. What? What fucking... What did I hack?
You... Hang on, so we don't know how to open the train carts either.
No, it just says hack the train controls panel.
Do you think the control panel is underground or on the train itself?
I have no
Oh,
idea.
I think you can climb onto the roof of the train. Oh.
Oh, yeah, wait, I can. Hang on. I'm on the roof of the train.
How many cameras can I hack again?
There's a guard.
All we had to do was follow the damn train.
I think I can only hack one at a time.
Oh god. Oh god. You didn't see me.
God.
I mean, he did, but not anymore.
They're already... I'm gonna mask
Put the
up.
game face on, buddies.
I don't know the ins and outs of this map.
Oh.
I just know I played it a bunch and I forget why.
Oh! Because we had to do it for an achievement. Oh god. Wait.
Now it's not the time to lockpick stuff.
Supervisor must have the digital key on his phone.
Oh, I got Rush. Shit.
Hey,
Why can't I? There we go. Hi. Don't
Oh
mind
yeah,
me.
back underground.
What?
I fucking hacked it! This game sucks. I'm not allowed.
Let's have a look around first. Or do you want to try
Nah.
You want to try a different heist? Yeah, okay. Bloody hell.
I hacked the camera.
Also, I found out how we make more money on the dirty ice or whatever. You have to
Oh.
scan the jewelry first before you bring it to the van. Oh wait, we already
Oh.
found that, didn't we?
No, we didn't.
We're doing it loud. We're live.
We're doing it loud.
Live. Loud? What one should we do? Oh, I don't know. Cook off again?
There's a this
Oh,
jewelry store
dirty
has
ice?
A lot of valuable merchandise. Let's steal it.
I don't know. Whatever.
Yeah, I'll do dirty ice.
I heard you were back from retirement.
Mm.
Good. I'm pleased. If you're interested in a high-paying job, I can think of nothing better than Ash.
If you're thinking of a job,
It may not look like much.
you're wrong.
But don't let it
Don't.
hold for
Oh.
It's owned by a corporation called International.
If you're thinking of a job, don't. That's illegal
Don't.
and it's wrong.
It's not good. I love how... I love how Daniel posted in general.
What he plays.
It's like Out of Bounds, GTA 6 got leaked, and it's the freaking Miami map from Cold War. And it's on Cold War. No, I saw this title, I'm like, oh, that's cool. And then I saw it on Cold War's Reddit. I'm like, why the fuck is this on Cold War's Reddit? Of all things. And I looked closely, I'm like, wait a minute! This is Miami from Cold War. I was like, hang on a second. No, I just thought that was really funny.
Who's this?
Kieran! Perfect.
Welcome
timing.
back.
We tried doing the stealth only heist and it's not very good, so...
Go,
We're
I'll join.
No,
Let me
the heist is good. We just suck. Oh wait, I forgot you left the lobby.
So we're doing the
Damn it.
heist that we're good at.
I was literally just waiting in the menu.
Thank you.
I'll be back. I'm just gonna start
Oh,
my
wait,
PS5
hang on.
and join off my phone.
Oh,
Yeah,
wait,
that's
did
okay.
you... Oh, wait, did you... Wait.
I went into match search and I forgot you weren't even in my lobby.
I was gonna say, I'm like,
Just sitting
where...
there.
Am I
He's taking
waiting
a
for
while.
an invite?
And I was just sitting there. He's taking a while to join. Is the game working? You weren't even in the lobby. God damn it. What do you think? Oh, Kieran, we have to find Kieran on the social hub.
No, I've got him.
Oh, good. I don't.
I have him. Do you want to add him?
Yeah, I probably should. What is it?
Rugged.
Rugged.
So, capital RUGGED. Seeker with a capital S.
Rugged Seeker 327.
327.
There he is. Block player.
Fuck that guy.
He's joining off his PlayStation, so we'll just have to wait.
Payday
I hope you
sticks.
guys don't mind.
So we've got PC, Xbox, and then we've got PlayStation. It's the most multicultural game of Payday.
And you get full custody of the kids, thinking you won't need to work for 18 years. When you're only getting 4,000 plus a month in child support and not 10k a month. I remember seeing that video. That's freaking insane. She thought she was gonna get a bunch of money for the divorce or whatever, but she's getting like the bare minimum.
Oh, hang on, get a phone call.
Oh, Karen, did you join back? Oh. Yeah. Are you joining, Kieran?
I am.
Okay. Please hold, we're just waiting for our friend.
Whose dog is that? Huh? You taking all the kids? You said it was Ronan's. Well, you must believe in him. Well, I said that's mine. I said mine. That's mine. Well, I don't get money off them because they're not underneath my care, but I still look after them like a real parent would. You do it because of money. True. True. Also, my friends are listening. Very sorry, lads. Hide the drugs. Hide the drugs. Columbia Coke will not get seen. Anyway, you guys joining? Like, my god, I'm just
You're
waiting
joining
here.
us. We're waiting for you.
Um,
I sent you a friend request.
Kairos 01?
Hmm?
Did you?
Yeah, Rugged Seeker. On the social hub. In the game.
Hold on, I'm joining now. Because Payday 3 is crossplay, right?
Yes. That's why RunRae's on console right now.
Go, because I'm also. Guess what?
What?
My Payday 3 pre-order thing that I got ages ago finally arrived.
Let's go. Sweet. It's
So I
not
have the
great
mock-
that took so long.
Oh yeah, I know, it's great. So I did send a thing about the issue of it taking so long, and they're sending another package with other stuff in it to say
Ah.
sorry.
Ah, that's cool.
Yeah. And I finally looked at it, so it's like one of those cool detailed guns, like Hoxton's gun, plus another one of the gang's masks.
Uh-huh.
And then they ask, so what's great is I get to wait, something went wrong with this game or app.
Wait, you couldn't start it?
Yeah, I think it just crashed.
Oh, damn.
Anyway, yeah, what's it called? So you know what they sent? And know what they sent now? So a
What?
cool little gun. Well, it's not even little, I think. I don't think it's a little gun, considering how much the package apparently weighed. And 2 masks. So Hoxton, and I got to choose one of the masks from Payday 2.
Oh, that's so cool. But you got the collector's edition?
Yeah,
Ah, damn it. Everyone got the collector's edition except me.
that's kind of funny.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. Oh, yeah. Well, I got one better, I think.
Oh.
Gonna be a part of the VR bundle if they release one.
No.
Yeah,
I was
not
the anime girl mask.
not such a big deal. And what did you say, Kieran?
So they said that they would give me a Hoxton mask and another one, right?
Yeah.
And I was like tempted to get the anime one, but I instead requested for the you know when you get every achievement in the game.
Ah.
Yeah, that.
So
that
you
cool
actually
one?
got to choose a boss, and you didn't choose the anime girl? Would you
I
have gotten
know.
weird
I
looks?
was so. Well, good thing that I'm a guy who knows how to 3D print and make shit.
Yeah. You
well.
you learn self-control or something.
Pretty much.
I would have requested the VR headset mask.
Oh,
that would have been funny.
What do you want? I want the VR headset mask. Why? Why not?
And they just go, "Oh no,
Oh no.
you can't do this to me." You know how much I've sacrificed. Wait,
So do you want a VR mask? No. So do you want a VR? No. Wait, so what, you just want a mask?
you just want a mask of it?
Yeah, I'm in.
Oh, sweet.
So I'll join RunRae. I can't join RunRae.
You can't find me.
I see RunRae. It just says invite to party or not.
Well, it says incoming and outgoing friend requests, doesn't it?
No.
Do you have to friend me?
Oh, incoming friend request.
Oh, so it is there.
Oh, let me accept you.
Ah, there we go. Wait. Hang on.
Yeah, so I'm
There you
looking
are.
at it.
Invite the
Hey.
phone. Oh, right, Renee's on the phone. Well, we'll start the heist anyway. I'm sure he'll manage. There we go. We're all here.
God, I love my loadout.
Finally. We can start the heist.
There's an armored
Finally.
So you need to get.
He's right.
Ashton.
I heard you were back from retirement. Good. I am pleased. If you're interested in a high-paying job, I can think of nothing better than Ashton Fine Jewelry Store. It may not-
Finally, land, said the first fish.
ECM gym, camera or camera? Why not camera? And I'm gonna get. Oh, there's no body for it.
Alright, phone call over.
Hold up, let
Perfect
me know
timing.
like this one.
I'm holding
Hold
up.
on.
Don't use that one, bro.
We're going in. Head first. Diving straight in. We might drown.
Ooh. Oh no. Ooh. Ooh.
Crazy.
Ooh.
You never chose the right lineup because I really don't want to be using that.
Stop posting about Dan Andreas. I'm CJ Grosky. My friend Jeff sent me names on Discord. It's fucking wild. Nick. I was in a server.
Literally everyone today. This is literally today.
And the logo, I flipped it and it said, hey, babe. Look at the truck. That ball, the same truck. My truck. Whoa. I go, oh, why? Oh.
I like the freaking ding 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 ding. God damn it.
Oh yeah, this house. Yeah.
We're dry ice.
I've
Wait,
we've done
I
this
mean
fight.
dirty ice.
Ashton Fine Jewelry Store.
Dry ice would probably kill us.
Mask on.
Are we going loud or... Oh, actually, I'm built to go
Oh,
loud.
follow me, follow me.
Ah!
Follow him. Civilians don't care in private areas.
Go forward, go forward. Don't let the civilians see you. Go down here.
There's a guard.
Not yet.
And there's a guard on the right as well.
There's a guard. There's a Mugus. Wait, are you actually good at stealth, Kieran?
I did this in stealth. I did this exact mission.
Yeah, me and RunRae did it in stealth too. It was more RunRae than me. Yeah.
He might have seen me.
He should have been back here. Shit. He's about to see me too. Shit. Oh my god, that was so close.
I think we got caught.
This store has been here since 1946.
Oh no.
It's the only remaining original.
He's after you, RunRae. He's got a keycard too.
Oh wait, I brought my loud builder.
Oh god damn it.
I didn't know I brought my
Thank-
loud builder.
I think they got a little... Well, we wanted to go loud anyway. Yeah.
Alright, well,
Well, we can either restart and see what Kieran can do in
fuck
stealth,
that.
or go loud.
Oh, the grace out.
Well, we wanted to go loud anyway, Kieran. We've got our loud builds.
I don't.
Alright. I can cover
Alright.
you.
Do I leave the game?
No, I just say yes to restart.
But I don't have a stealth build.
Can you
Alright,
switch
let's go
it?
on to the new one.
Whatever. We Scott, don't throw anything away at the van yet or whatever. Now we'll just go loud. Oh right, there's a hostage animations now. We're gonna clean the diamonds first.
The diamond. Why, this isn't the
Hold
diamond.
on,
The
let me-
diamonds. This isn't the diamond. That guy
It's a
died.
bathtub.
This isn't a diamond. This is a bathtub.
Stop hijacking this.
Stop what? Oh, robbing you? Yeah. Well, we can't do that either. Oh, you tell him to follow you now.
0512. Okay.
Oh, I
VIP
accidentally
foot.
beat the hostage. Stop beating the hostage. I'm trying to break the glass.
Stop beating the hostage. Up
No, that's all you meant.
Oh,
there. He's still following orders? Yeah. Oh, wait. Hang on. I don't know. Do we want to restart? Because we're already making progress. How about we do this loud, and then we'll come back and do it stealth?
Yes, we'll do
Okay.
that.
That'll be fun.
I don't want to do this whole mission at stealth, so
Yeah, but
You only know how to do this mission in stealth.
don't worry, we'll cover you. I've got my
Fucking
sentry gun.
easy this heist.
Lady.
There's an achievement for literally beating it in 2 minutes.
Come on. We're going back this way.
We're going back to Florida.
They're
Listen,
okay
if
with shooting
GTA
at
wants
you.
wacky cities to put in their next game,
Wacky waving inflatable arm flailing
fucking
people.
Ohio.
So, we have to unlock this door.
They put fucking Ohio in GTA.
Hang on. Yeah, this lady.
That's the manager. She must have access to the jeweler's workshop.
Oh, this way, stupid. Scan your face.
Oh yeah, I aim down sight a lot faster now.
Oh, sweet.
I unlocked that perk.
That's a perk.
Yeah, because I hate the way you fucking ADS in this game, because it's like weird and like slow. This one's just instant.
That's the multi-tag scan.
Actually, even while like
Throw in your
run,
gun,
yeah,
let it weed out any marked merchandise.
yeah, no, it's more the running animation.
Oh, right. No one has the
Oh, there's the
transporter
sniper.
skill?
Oh, well, we can hold 2 bags. Fuck, I should get that perk.
Yeah. You move slower, obviously. Show me the monies! All of the money. My god, we don't have enough money.
Sentry gun ready.
you just saved me. Jordan, I love you.
Hang on.
In a
Whoa,
very, very, very great way.
I thought you were chains, Kieran.
Catch your breath. But stay
Yeah,
alert.
Kieran is Buxton.
Frickin' literally
God
the
damn it! I
lighting.
keep killing the civilian. I might have accidentally killed the important person that we needed.
Why? Oh, did she stand
It
up?
literally, I shit you not, it literally aim assisted at him.
Her. Wait,
I'm
him or
not
her?
even joking.
Oh,
It literally aim assisted on him.
is this
Like,
all a
no,
goal?
that's not what I wanted to do.
Disable the lockdown. What lockdown? Oh no, Sanctuary Guard. How could they? Well, obviously.
Oh wait, is he here?
Is who here? He said he's nearby.
Wait, what is this?
How do you disable the lockdown?
Oh, I'm cleaning it, I forgot. That's what you were talking about.
Attacking another assault team.
I was like, what the fuck is going on there? Wait, did you grab all the bags and put them there?
Yes.
Okay, good.
I mean, I don't know if I missed a few, but
Cops got clearance to bring in naders.
Did you like put some in that helicopter or something?
that was the helicopter's not here yet.
It's go time.
Crack the password.
Isn't there a secret door or something here?
Yeah,
Case's lockdown has been lifted.
this here.
VIP lockdown has been lifted.
I found one.
Oh, you opened the vault? Wait, no. How do you? Do you have to stealth it? To
I
open
I
You have
turned
to
off
press
something in the
2 buttons at
basement.
the same time.
that? 2 buttons at the same time.
Yes.
Where's
Oh
the...
wait,
you
Nick,
come
you
here,
did.
right?
Nick, you did miss 2. Hang on.
Okay. So there's the red button. So you push this button and another button at the same time.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Just throw the
Take-
bag into the machine right now.
Which machine?
Over here, where it says to throw it into.
Uh,
You were just here. Oh, look, one's ready.
bro, that giant fucking bag just fit in there. What the hell?
Kieran, where's the other button?
Keep an eye out.
I don't know.
But we have to push both of them.
Yeah, so I remember finding it once.
So you only found the other one once.
To make sure that 2 people give their input simultaneously. One plays a backbeat, not rocket science.
Lyle can stay
Yeah, you
Oh.
missed so many, Nuke.
I only took what was already bagged up.
Your choice.
Where's the other button?
It's on the desk. Oh no, it's on the desk, and you need a key card.
Desk and key. I got a blue key card.
Oh no,
Wasn't
you
it-
need the code.
Oh, hang on.
And there could be one of 3 codes.
Ah.
It could be.
I'm surrendering. I found the security camera room.
The. Wait, what? Oh no, that's the passcode to the basement.
I'm already in the basement.
You need. Oh yeah, no, you need the QR code, but like, it's I think it's stealth only.
To open the vault.
Yeah.
Because Kieran says there's 2 buttons you have to push at the same time.
Yeah, there. I don't know if you can do it in loud, but I know.
Well, we just gotta find the other button first. I need to replace my sanctuaries, I think.
Ah,
Yeah.
fucking modern doorfare.
Modern door.
I got the red key card, and I think
Is the change machine ready?
Well, I keep putting fucking bags in it, so no.
Nah, it's because you can fit multiple. Yeah,
I
let's
keep
play
putting-
jewelry. You have to pick up so it keeps going. You have 13 bags in there. Oh wait, 12. Oh wait, nah, 12 in the one that currently.
I
Wait.
think there might have been a hostage there. No, it wasn't. Okay, good.
But you've
yeah, I was
collected
about to say,
everything.
that's pretty daring.
You killed a hostage.
Amazing. Mission complete. That right there is why you're the best.
Hey, Joe, can I get you coming downstairs?
Why is there a banana on the
I need
toilet?
the blue. Wait, Nuke, I need you to come downstairs. You have the blue key card.
Okay, I'm on my way. If I can remember how to get down out that way.
Thanks, Chains. You're actually useful.
Okay, I
Yeah,
got
they
clean
have
jewelry.
300% health now. I'm over here.
Go. I love this door. There might be the button here.
I already
Yeah,
have
you're
James,
it.
carry the clean jewelry.
Wait, yeah, this was already unlocked. Why did you? They could
Come on.
Lyle's back. I'm gonna throw the bag I currently have in because it's clean. Is that other
where
bag
is he?
clean? He's down the street.
Oh yeah.
Throw the bag at the computer. I mean the machine first. Then throw it at Lyle.
Yeah, no, this one's clean. Yeah.
Uh-oh, FBI's here.
That's one bag.
The damage on the FBI radar is really inconsistent.
Get your game faces on.
Because sometimes it takes like 2 shotgun shots, but then it takes like 8. Like 2 clips of shotgun ammo to destroy it.
Where's the FBI van?
Help!
Um,
The toilet!
Uh-oh.
This is a toilet in so many ways.
Jade!
Attack wave. This time
Get
we
her.
won't back down.
What? They're already on final charge? We haven't even left yet.
Yeah, yet.
Sabotage squad.
What the fuck is a sabotage specialist?
That means they take out med bags and ammo bags and armor bags and whatever. Except
Don't cloakers
sentries.
just do that?
They both can. Well, that's what they mean. They're sending in cloakers and whatever.
So why not just say they're sending in cloakers?
Because sometimes they just send in... Well, because other things can sabotage stuff as well. Like, technically, Zapper's a sabotage. Oh shit, Bulldozer's a
Oh
sabotage.
no, don't worry, I've got this. I've got this bulldozer. One shot!
What's...
3 bags and counting.
What's stupid is I can barely kill a bulldozer and I have a shotgun.
Down this time.
Yeah, but I've got a fucking tank sniper. Also, someone downstairs is doing something.
Yeah, this... Oh, we turned off the power, I think. I'll put up another sanctuary. I don't know where the best place to put them is.
Got the sentry gun set up.
I hope they add more variety or something to the sentry guns, like how you could get one with a suppressor. Oh shit.
Holy.
What the fuck would be the point of a suppressed sentry gun?
So they're less likely to target it?
They're
So
less
it's-
likely to.
Yeah, that's what happened in Payday 2. If you had a suppressed turret,
The thing is, they're
more likely to
But wouldn't-
ignore it.
But wouldn't they see?
They would see it, but
Only
they're
the
less
ball-
likely to see it if they can't hear it. They can't hear it shooting
What?
them.
Like 2%?
It was effective.
I don't think it was.
Whatever it is, I hope they had more of a variety. Anyway, was there 13 bags or are there any more?
The
What
bags
the hell
are in the hole. Not there.
Like, we
We
got
can't-
more bags.
What more bags? Oh damn it, they're turning off the power again. Ah, I missed.
We got the.
Oh, that's a
creative-
bulldozer.
I don't have my sniper. I am very sorry.
Oh shit! He's pulling his cock out.
He's pulling his cock out!
I'm in a gas grenade and there's a bulldozer.
What the fuck? Oh, the gas is glitching through the wall.
Oh, you can't close doors that have... Right around there. Oh, you killed him. They're big naders. As soon as you kill one nader, another
That's
immediately spawns.
nice.
Nah, it'd be racist if it was a
Gosh
G.
damn naders. Hey, what do you mean by that? What are you trying to say here?
It'd be racist if it was a G. Naders.
These nagers.
No, gators. Like
Oh my
alligators.
Damn it, we've got 7 bags left. Hang on. I'm coming back.
I don't think it'd be any faster if we did it stealth. Oh, wait. Oh, shit.
Dude, I'm coming.
Thanks, Kieran.
Oh, good.
Thank
the
you,
bot-
America. Where's the FBI van?
It's the final charge. Like,
Yeah, but Shade is still talking about it.
Remember, this is 2023. They just lazily slap dialogue here to have character.
Huh.
Thanks, Naughty Dog. You pieces of shit.
No, yeah.
Ruined the narrative of games because your freaking game won all the awards. You ripped off The Walking Dead.
Apparently, Left 4 Dead... No, not Left 4 Dead. Last of Us Part 2 was made on false marketing. Apparently, Joel was meant to be in the game more, but all the scenes that they had in the trailer were all fake. He's not even...
Yeah, they did. Yeah, I knew that.
Yeah. So that's illegal.
Marvel does it all the fucking time. It's not
Difference-
illegal. It's just I think they did it to prevent spoilers.
It should be.
So it's not illegal. It's just being a
It's
dick.
false marketing.
It's not false marketing. It's just being an ass. That's all it
Yeah.
was.
Dude, are you down?
Yes, I'm dead. I got hit by a cloaker.
Oh my god! Someone just. We need to get rid of this clean jewelry.
I got it. Wait, where is it?
Sentry gun ready. Setting up a sentry gun.
Anyway, people buy the game expecting... Like, people watched Avengers. They watched it for the Avengers. They didn't watch it for the Hulk.
Avenged. What's your point?
Avengers do it all. Marvel movies do it all the fucking time.
Yeah, but it was Avengers. Not... It's not called, like... I know what you mean, because in Endgame they had the Hulk
They
charging.
do it to prevent. Yeah, that's what I think people said. They did it to prevent spoilers.
Except the fact that it's called Avengers. Well, I guess I know the other thing's called Last of Us, but Last of Us has Joel as one of the main characters. The other main character, the one you play as. The
I don't think
Avengers,
they said you
they
were
have
playing
no.
as him.
The Avengers have no one protagonist; they have multiple.
Oh, Joel sucks. He's just Rick Grimes. There, I said it. That whole fucking
But
series
RunRae,
is overrated as fuck.
You say you think Joel sucks, but other people don't. They bought the game expecting to play as
They
Joel.
fucking suck.
Nah.
I bet you they're the motherfuckers that think Redfall has character and personality to them.
No. The people who played Last of Us, the people who defend Last of Us Part 2 think Redfall is a good game.
Believe it or not, no. IGN gave it a 4. I don't know, it's crazy.
I know. Well, that's insane.
So in regular gaming words, that means it's like a fucking -8. It's like the worst game ever. And they gave that Walking Dead game a 2.
How do I keep getting hit by cloakers? I just turned around.
We have no health and no armor. Dude, I'm down.
Oh shit.
You literally ran past me.
I was cloakered and I got distracted.
Yeah, I saved you.
Dang, I didn't... What? How did I kill a civilian? Hang on. Did that civilian got the medkit?
I just dodging the snipers. We made it.
Oh crap. Are we
Hey,
leaving?
why are you with us?
I didn't know you guys were leaving.
Let me put a
cloaker.
camera in the...
Okay, I'm leaving. Damn it. I think we could have taken everything. I'm about to be sniped, by the way.
Look at our health, and we've got no fucking resources.
Fine, let's go. Well, that was fun. So do we want to do it against stealth or not?
Yeah, we'll do it stealth. And this
Okay.
time I'm gonna bring my stealth build.
Yeah, let me build a self build.
Ugh.
Oh, I unlocked transporter.
I love it. Wow. Oh my god.
I love black people.
You know what I find really funny? Even with...
Mini lad. Apologizing.
No. Even with the new XP system they got, you still get fucking nothing.
Yeah, that's the point.
Yeah.
It's to encourage you to still do the challenges.
That's sad as fuck.
But it's the challenges are so fucking dumb because the way they lay them out.
He's not wrong, Nuke.
They're
Yeah, I
so
know.
fucking bad. Instead of like, all right, we're gonna fix it. You're gonna. We encourage you to do it even more.
Nah, not even more. Less, because you still get XP regardless.
But you get
Yeah, but
no XP. You get fucking nothing.
Because you have to do the challenges to progress.
But the challenges are so bad because you need guns. Most of the challenges require you to unlock guns that you need XP for. So what the fuck?
Yeah, I know. I don't know.
And in order, and the fucking even worse, you need to complete heists on higher difficulties like overkill and stuff. Except you need to fucking level up to get perks, and it's impossible. Whoever designed
don't.
the challenges in this game should be fucking fired. Go work at Naughty Dog. You'll love The Last of Us Part 2. You'll
Why
fucking
do I
love
have
that game.
CQC? I'm gonna. I've got
CQC.
I'll have a transporter so I can level it up in
What the fuck's my
stealth.
stealth there?
So we're doing dry ice again, but stealth.
I guess. Like, what the fuck is this challenge? Defeat 60 dozers?
I'll start
Like,
the.
who is doing that?
I don't know.
Who is doing that?
I'm gonna start it, but I also gotta quickly take a band-aid off. I think. I'll be right back. while
Also,
Scott
my
Max-
my 2 other recommended challenges is you have to beat this heist on overkill or above. Which you need XP for! Oh my god!
Yeah, no, not gonna lie. This is good.
The way you earn XP in this game is so bad.
We tried making a good game. Well, did you build off Payday 2?
No, we did the complete opposite.
Light ammo. Yeah. Ammo bag, because we won't be going out. We'll grab ECM jammers, I'm assuming. Oh, my build is done.
Done.
Could I have used the zipline bag? Dude, you aren't making a build now, are you?
The Newcastle
Alright.
do something. Oh,
Ready?
yeah.
I had to take off a band-aid.
Could've streamed it. Alright, you lost him.
Let's...
The store is just across the street. Case the place
Well, this
or
time
run.
I actually have the
Your
right
choice.
build on.
Me too.
Go down here.
Watch the guard.
Actually, I'll do down here. One of you go up top. Don't get caught. Scan the phone up top.
Wait, can I just jump on top of you? No, I can't.
Good question.
Keep an eye out for
Actually, hang on. I'll do my method of stealth, which is to jump on top of here, jump on top of here, shoot this out.
that one's the manager. We may need her
Oh
to
wait.
tell us a
Here's your QR code.
keep
Wait.
tabs on her.
Ooh, the employee of
Give it
the
a moment. Give
month.
it a moment. Give it a moment. There's your QR code.
Good thing she has this weird framed picture. Why can't we just go off to
My
people?
finger when he. Beep, beep,
Yeah,
boop, boop,
he's got a tongue and a mouth. I mean, I guess...
boop.
Why wouldn't they? Well, why did they allow you to do that? What?
And it's in the
Yeah.
lunchroom.
They've got eyes on the back of their eyes. Yeah. Well, I guess you only ever see the front of them.
Nope, that's the bathroom.
So weird. I like how it just says you move
welcome.
faster. It doesn't say how much you move
It's
faster.
it's in the
just-
lunchroom. It's in the lunchroom.
It says
I
you
don't-
move faster, but it doesn't say by how much.
Wait, how do you inspect weapons again? It's
Weapon wheel.
how do you pull up the weapon
Uh-oh.
wheel though?
Yeah.
D-pad and then
Oh crap.
hand.
No,
Shit.
it's not.
Was that me
it's not
getting
the-
spotted?
Oh no, they've spotted the window. Oh, and oh no, they spotted the camera.
Okay, good, because I accidentally put on my mask. Like, I was
Oh,
trying
that's right. They spotted the camera that I shot. Yeah.
I was trying to bring up this menu, and I frickin' it's the ping button, RunRae.
Oh no! Do not come in this room. Do not come. No! I'm gonna run out of pages.
RunRae. You hold down the ping button to bring up the inspect wheel. I accidentally did.
Oh, yeah,
I
it's
was-
up on D-pad. Yes.
I accidentally held mask up, and now I'm stuck outside. I can't move because there's people all around me. What do I do? Why can't cars spot me? Do they think
Hey,
it's a
buddy.
they
Look,
try-
come see our new friends.
what? Is this like a? Do they think this is like a public event? No, what's it called?
What? Who the fuck spot? He saw me through the door. Wait, what?
Oh my god! This car is jumping.
Bro, I've run out of pages.
They have the freaking
Just gotta
cars
say one
that.
downstairs. That's it.
We're running out of pages.
You know those
What's the code?
cars that have the
Zero
frickin-
0985. Hang on. Let's go to the basement. It is. Skibbity bop boo da boop boop boo.
Oh, I know what the code is. I'll go have a
nine,
look. I know where. it
8,
is.
5. Enter. Alright.
You know those cars that freaking they jump to get out of the sand or whatever?
Okay. Bad news. We have no pages left.
Did you kill
Bad
him?
news. I'm about to be spotted. Oh shit!
I
Everyone
think you
get
might
down.
have been spotted.
Everyone outside, get on the ground. Get on the ground.
Hang on. They don't know yet. They don't know yet.
Get on the ground, you bastard.
Hang on. Hang on. We're so close.
Just keep going. Just keep...
Okay, we got the key card. Alright, now.
Why can I zip tie them so quickly? Did they make it faster or did I get the perk for it? Everyone just stay on the ground. Shit. Why would you run towards the danger, you idiot? Yes, get on the ground. No one will be hurt. Just stay there.
This is supposed to be one of the easiest heights. What the hell happened? We broke a single window. That was it.
I accidentally put my mask on. Like I
No, we got this.
genuinely-
Hang on, we still got this. Hang on.
By accident, I genuinely put my mask on.
IDE wouldn't want this to
Who?
become public information. I'll hold on to it for now. I'm sure it'll
Oh
come
no.
in
Oh no.
Oh crap! Get on the ground. There's a guard out
Okay,
here.
I got the
Hear him.
artifact. Alright.
Do
I
something.
got the rare artifact.
back alley. Get the bags there.
Nick, what the fuck have you done?
I had to zip tie everyone because I got freaking. God damn it! What are you all doing here? Get on the ground.
Nick, just grab him and bring him in.
I'm trying. Get up. God damn it. I just had to zip up an entire God damn it. It's spreading inside.
Alright, Nuka, if a guard catches you, then we gotta restart.
I think.
Oh yeah, I think we gotta restart.
God damn it. Why are there so many
Wait,
people?
not yet, not yet.
Look
We
how
still
many-
got this.
Look how many people I had to frickin' zip tie.
Hit the floor.
Look how many frickin' people I had to zip tie.
How has no one called the cops?
Keep zip tying people. Oh no. Damn it.
Fuck.
Just before we
Hang on.
restart, look how many people I had to zip tie outside. Damn it. Why did they have to keep coming?
Wait, what?
Wait, can we grab the woman who we need and then try and do the vault thing?
What the hell happened?
Grab the assistant and open the vault.
What happened here?
I think it's her.
I accidentally put my mask on outside. The stream can clarify that I frickin' put... Oh,
Do we
the vault's
restart
open.
or?
I'm thinking we might have to.
I can use them to negotiate.
Oh, wait, what? How did you open it?
It was just open.
No, because I stealthed it.
Oh, you stealth towards the button.
Yeah, I stealthed it.
Should we see how many hostages we can trade? Like all the ones outside? Hang on, can we even go
Yeah, but the
outside?
thing is, they are all outside. We can't get to them because the
no, I
cops
can
are
get
there.
to them.
I'm gonna right
You
here.
get out. God damn it. Why did I mask
Yeah, how
out?
did you open the vault?
He pushed a button in the room, didn't you? Renato?
You out. Hang on. You out.
Why is it so quick? I don't know if I have the perk equipped to do it.
Yeah, man, I think they fixed it. You out.
Anyway,
You out.
do we want to restart or just finish this again?
Hang on. Hang on. 4 hostages left. Wait, there's one up back here tied up.
I had the friction zip tie
You
everything.
out.
I think if we continue, I can unlock the double perk, whatever. What's it called?
You out. Hang on, wait, I can delay it. Wait. Oh fuck, you already used that guy! Shit! We ran out!
We've
We
got
ran out
no
of
more
hostages!
people.
Oh, we got one!
We got another one.
Oh, we got it.
Stop inspecting your gun.
Fuck! We need 11 more!
I don't think we have enough.
I don't think we have enough.
Do we restart or just keep going?
Yeah,
No, you know what you
restart.
do? No, we got two. We need 2 bags. There you go.
Nah, don't we have to clean them first?
No, you don't need to.
Yeah, but that means they're
They're
worth.
just worth more. That's it.
Right. Fine, we'll steal 2 more bags, but that makes it so I can unlock the dual bag thing quicker. The transporter skill quicker.
Ah!
I'm sad I put on my mask, but it's hilarious I managed to zip tie an entire street worth of people.
What the? I missed. I missed both my throwing knives.
Good
Shit.
thing nobody has a cell phone anymore.
Good thing no one looked.
Yeah.
No, I
But
did
people
that.
kept walking down the street, and then there was an entire crosswalk full of people.
There we go. We just technically need one bag now. Hang on.
We've got 2.
Oh yeah, beautiful. Alright. Come on, Bile, where are you?
Should
There
we
he
do a
is.
different heist, or do we want to try stealthing this one again?
I'll try to steal this one again. There we go, place the last bag. Alright, there you go, let's go.
Quick, let's get out of here.
Just like Nuke's favorite shit XP game.
What?
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
God damn it. That was freaking funny. Hey, I unlocked 2 new skills already. Or 3.
Wait, how much?
I unlocked 6 skills.
I earned 20 XP. And you're down.
I got 240.
I got 169.
I got 20.
That's better
That's
than
so
getting...
fucking bad.
It's better than getting literally nothing.
At that point, you'd rather. At that point, you should give me nothing because that's what it felt like.
Nuke,
What?
Elmo fucking sucked when he developed this game.
Who?
I know. What the fuck was he doing?
Who?
Fucking Almia.
He's a freaking community manager. He doesn't
I know.
actually make the game.
Yeah, I know, but still.
Alright, fine, let's tr- Anyway, it's not his fault. I was the one who put the mask on. Like a freaking idiot.
I'm trying to do XP, not just game.
Oh,
I can
right.
think of nothing better than Ashton Fine Jewelry Store. It may not look like much, but don't let the humble facade fool you. It's owned by a corporation called International Diamond Enterprises. They are very good at making stones from, shall we say, conflicted areas appear. Not so conflicted. There's plenty of valuable merchandise with premium items in the VIP show. I have reliable information saying they just received a large shipment of blood diamonds. There is, however, a catch. They're using a technique.
Oh.
Fuck, I want to customize my skills.
Alright.
Hooray! Oh wait, we're doing this is stealth, right?
I forgot I have to. What?
This is stealth, right?
Yes.
Good. Alright, for my right build, okay. Good.
Why do they never fuel up in Fast and Furious movies? So weird.
The store is just across the street.
Let's
Case
get to
your
work.
mask up right away. Your choice.
And this time I won't put on my mask.
Guards and cameras everywhere. Be careful.
Watch the sieve.
That's the
Where should I put down the motion detectors?
Just in case you need to persuade her of anything.
There's someone there.
Okay, who fucked up already?
Wasn't
No,
me.
hang on.
This is in the VIP area.
Oh, I got this.
for really good stuff.
I'll put down a motion detector in the main room and see if we can get one in the back room.
Hey, dispatch. I'm all good. Just
Why do we need a welder to cut the thing
You know
open?
what I mean. I'm just waiting
To cut
for
open a
someone
window.
to
Can't we just unlock it?
Yes, that's what I want to do. Okay, good. Tie her up. Go in this room. Yay! And then what I do is
Oh.
There's someone there. Guard.
Oh, so I can tag 2 people. Wait, how? I thought I disabled the skill.
Can you grab the can code thing when you're free?
Where is it?
It's
It's still in the lunchroom. Is it the same code, considering...
How am I supposed to get into the... How am I supposed to cut the window open without someone seeing? There's like a guy right here. The guy right there. How do I cut this without people seeing me?
What do you mean?
The window open.
It's really quick, easy.
Never mind. Apparently people are just blind. Okay,
Oh,
the
no,
window
it's
is...
the camera.
Fred, search. Something isn't right here.
I opened the window, but I have to put on the mask to jump in. Seriously. What's the point of opening the window then? You'll never be able to jump in without being spotted.
Holy shoot, the women are really attractive in this game.
I know. Have you seen
Bro, have you seen
RunRae's
the
characters?
GTA 6 ones?
Have you
Genuinely
seen...
don't want to know.
Kieran, have you seen Pearl?
Who?
The
My
character
character.
RunRae's playing as.
Oh,
Oh,
no,
come
but
on.
other than that,
No. Closed door. No. Closed door. Fuck. Oh, come on.
Don't you
Wait,
Well,
there's
we've
a
only
camera.
got one page
That
left.
you're always checking up on me? Why is that? You crushing on me or something? It ain't happening, bro.
Hey, what are you talking about? A woman security guard? Impossible.
Hey, welcome.
Hey.
Hey, I got a collection here of humans.
Do we have to push the button?
No, you need the hostage to push it for you. Oh, unless you can. Oh no, you can do it. We can do it at the same time.
Hang on, so you have to push the button and interact with the terminal?
Wait. Before, no, we need a code. So, 8105. Hang on. So I need to go down here. Skip it about boot up. Boop, boop, boo.
What?
8 1
Are you trying to
0
place this on the
5.
wall?
Enter. Where's the camera? Boop. And then we shoot him.
Coded locks, security cameras.
Shoot that camera.
I wonder if
Look
I
with the
place a
pager.
sentry turret, will it automatically just start shooting? Or will it wait
Probably.
until we go loud?
Not to freak you out or anything, but your doctor called and he thinks there
From the
are
looks of it, the
spiders.
manager's getting ready to leave.
Then we open this lockpick.
It is kind of funny how the female characters can answer the radio, but there are no female guards in the entire game. Either of them.
Wait a minute. Why do you sound like a woman?
I just have
The
a-
alarm goes off. Okay.
I just have a really high-pitched voice.
Okay. So what we do, grab this woman, and then you yeet her to the button.
This is literally the worst day of
You pushed it.
Nice.
Use the key card.
I
Open
think
this,
that's for when you're doing it solo.
Open up
Then
the
you
vault.
tell her to get on the ground. Yeah, you can do it solo.
No, I
Jordan,
think
Jordan.
you push her at the button to do it solo.
Break this. There we go. Now we've got the important thing we need.
Van is waiting in the back
Do we have to scan the diamonds as
Oh,
well?
Jordan, how many of those things do we have left?
Pages like one. Oh no, none.
We have none left.
I've used all of them.
Throw the bag in the back.
Uh-oh.
Wait, where's the VIP room?
Last minute.
RunRae, I was gonna hack it.
Don't touch those display cases. It'll set
God
off the
damn
alarm.
it.
Try the basement for a way
Yeah,
to
that
disable
the
it.
cameras stay hacked. Oh, why do I cause that?
Did you set off the
I'm
alarm?
gonna be honest. I completely forgot to shut off the alarm. Restart! I forgot to turn off the alarm. I'm like, wait, there was something else I needed to do.
Why did we
I was standing right next to it, interacting with it, like the alarm trigger, and then once I saw it go off, I was like, I was a second too late. What the? I felt wrong.
Hey, it's almost, it says it's 3:30 in game. And it's almost 3:20, it's 3:25 here.
Mask on or off. That's your call.
Coincidence.
See, this is happening real time. Kieran, I think you did that a bit too early.
God, imagine if the game had a day and night cycle.
Careful.
No, I did mine too. Hey, can you tell him to get on the ground? Thank you.
Get on the floor. Everybody walk the dinosaur.
Down on the ground.
How do we open the door outside?
Is in the VIP area display cases.
Yeah, sorry. I just needed to tell someone. You know Bob, right? Well,
Kinda cool, so.
he's got a podcast where he tries out different
Oh, that's
kinds
Chains.
of donuts.
Chains, you jackass. I thought you were
All
civvy.
is
A
jelly.
podcast?
It's the craziest thing I've heard all day.
He turns himself into a pickle.
It's a guard.
Daniel? Oh, there's a keypad to get in there.
Jordan, how the fuck did I redeem this?
I don't know.
Guards. He turned
Only
himself
the
into a...
body moved
Oh, the
because
same
I-
thing happened to you. Oh no.
Don't touch me.
Nah, like you have a choice, lady. There's a buff guy walking down the street.
Then just get him down after he comes close.
He'd be like, "Oh my god, a gun!" And like he's super scared.
Never mind, he gets... he missed.
He's really puny.
No, he's like really built, but he's really, really scared.
Gonna get away with anything on my
Stay
way.
off the
You
camera.
better believe it.
Okay, where's
Okay,
the
I'm
launch?
just gonna move them out of sight.
So I
Get
can hack
five.
cameras and point them away.
The Wi-Fi code. Wait, isn't the Wi-Fi code literally here?
It's in
I
the
was-
lounge.
I was about to cut this window open, but there's a lady right there. That was a close.
Oh wait, no, it's in the. Oh, 8105. Oh wait, it's the same fucking code. Okay, hang on.
Jordan,
What?
I don't know if the
Uh,
civilians
8,
actually do or don't
1,
do.
0, 5, enter.
What are you talking about, Kieran?
So a civilian just walked by, looked at the people tied up, and was just like, "Yeah, nah."
Coded locks.
It's in a public place. It's for real estate.
Down here.
Hang on, is that guy dressed as Shaggy?
Okay, this time I'm actually going to
Is that Shaggy from Scooby-Doo that just walked past?
Oh, like fuck Scoob.
They're criminals, man! What the hell?
I just died in your arms tonight.
There we go. Now the alarm's off. Okay.
The display case.
I just died.
I'll just die. That's it. Oh shit. Oh shit.
Do something. And stop breaking
I
cameras.
just fucking gotta.
One radio until alarm.
You know what's
That's
funny too? I literally need her right now.
I need her.
Okay, I'm heading in.
Nice. That actually worked.
Let go.
It's fine. It's
Yeah,
fine.
there's
I wanna
like
get
a rat or something that just runs past.
Hey
Yeah.
yo, there's a rat.
Let's see what's inside that vault.
And the achievement's called pest control, so kind of
The
funny.
van is parked in the back alley. Get the back.
Is there an NPC here? Oh,
Gaining.
thanks Chains for guarding it. Alright, now.
Thanks for guarding the Chan Bane. Can you open the door down there so I can get in?
The who with this door.
Yeah. Thanks.
Alright, so now we need to go to the, where's the VIP area? This one.
Did we
Okay.
turn off the alarm this time?
Yes! I did it this time.
You.
Shit. Oh, she's not looking. we will
Right.
literally be quick.
I can hack the cameras.
Is that a god?
That's an NPC.
We can zip tie the NPC as long as no one else enters here. Shh.
Fuck, that was a guard. Wait, do we have any pages left? Wait,
No, wait,
Oh.
one. We have one page left.
Oh, thank God I can open
Shit.
that instantly.
There's someone there.
How are we supposed to get out of here, Kieran?
And she said, "Hello.
Hang on. Alright.
Are you listening
Just
to
walk
my
through the door.
personal conversations,
Never
Dispatch?
mind. I thought the
Oh,
guy
wait,
was with
yes,
us.
yes. No, no, no. What are you doing? Okay, go the long way.
I
Oh, you
don't-
can't jump. That's right. I forgot.
Yeah.
I forgot.
Oh,
I
right,
can't
can't
jump.
jump. You have to grab the bag.
Don't grab the city. She's gonna notice and then report.
Can I go out the front entrance with it? Like, into the public area? Oh, I could have just brought it. I would have gone the even longer way. What'd you say, Kieran?
I
What?
just.
Oh, they nerfed this heist. You need fucking one more bag now.
Hang on, don't we have to clean them first?
No, we don't. They fucking nerfed the heist.
What is
You used
that?
to only need to get 3 bags and you just fucking leave. Alright, now we need one more bag. Alright. Okay, whatever. Alright, let's go.
Yeah.
Alright, I got this last bag and then we're gonna get the hell out of here.
I think we could have.
Alright, there we go, we did it. Alright, leave. Leave.
Wait. I think I could have cleaned the jewelry as well.
I'm grabbing one more bag.
Yeah, I've got a bag on me. I'm just a normal guy, like all of you. I just happen to have a bag
I'm gonna
on
watch
me.
35 minutes of useless information in GTA 5.
That's 5.
Yeah, in GTA 6. Wait, what?
Oh,
The game's not even out yet.
Yeah. I'm just making broad assumptions.
Wait.
Hang on, you're bringing someone with us?
wife.
Your wife
My wife.
takes the ugliest character.
Yeah, we did it.
Oh, you can straight up
didn't
just
fall.
take people with you.
But you still get. Wow, I actually got XP that time.
Yeah, I got
I
XP
get
last
XP
time
too.
too. But I think that's
Because I
because
did one. Because I did a challenge. That's why. So you still need to do challenges.
But not as drastic. I don't know. Like
No, you
they're
still need to
working
do
on
them drastically.
elevator access. Oh, right.
Jordan. I
What
got an
about-
achievement for Jordan's wife. It's called Ugh Ugh. I'm kidding, I'm kidding.
No, not that one. What should we do now?
I don't know.
No Rest for the Wicked, Road Rage, Rock the Cradle.
A gallery in Brooklyn.
Do we want to do a loud one or a stealth one?
Let's break into this penthouse and this
Do we want to do
house
cook-off
might be
again?
grimier than our recent
Oh yeah, we
drug
can cook
money
meth.
still money.
Let's go, meh. I mean, something not demonetizable.
What?
Something legal.
Friends, I found a new job I think you'll be interested in.
Should we do it hard or,
For Hector Morales back in the day.
I'll do
Well, that
hard.
recipe's been off the market for years, but just recently it's made a resurgence.
Oh, wait, I
on
got the
East Coast.
sniper. Well, I need to use
Fewer
that.
than
Hang on.
before. I tracked the supply chain to a lab in upstate New York.
Upstate New York?
You chops old heads
Really?
creating these little
Well, I'm
ships.
from
You just
Utica, and
go
I've
in,
never
bag out
heard
some
anyone
drugs,
use for steam
and sell them
things.
for a nice profit. Easy money.
How do you get a some? I think level 9 to get like a small scope.
I don't think stealth is an option here. Be ready to take the goods by
Stealth
force.
isn't an option. Alright, matchmake.
I'm using a sniper rifle. Huh. That's interesting. So you know the minigun in GTA 5, Nick?
Wait, is this a loud heist or not?
Yes, this is loud. This is when cook meth.
I said we're... I
Cooking
said
meth.
we're doing drugs. I mean, making drugs.
What was I gonna say? Yeah. You know the minigun in GTA 5?
Yes.
Apparently, it was originally going to overheat.
Ah.
But
That
then
would've been
the only evidence to it is there's a model of it overheating in the files.
Aha.
Shit! We just walked
Hang on.
into a-
Whoops! Oh,
It's a police raid.
Kieran, it's loud only.
Whoa,
Wait.
they really broke upon the place.
They really... Oh, wait, the drug lad's upstairs this time. Yeah, we're fine. How... How are you,
You can
supposed to...
stealth this?
No, you can't.
Then you need to do the cooking yourselves.
Hey, the lad's
It's-
on the... up here again.
Apparently, from what I looked up, this is like the worst way to put it up here.
Obviously. Do you remember how freaking difficult it was originally?
Fuck, I'm missing one ingredient.
I mean, when it had the chance of being spawned in the shed? Yeah.
Oh shit,
We had
you
it
took it.
spawn in the
Oh, yeah,
basement
so-
on our first
Yeah,
try.
well, yeah, it was in the basement for us.
That was like the best spawn.
They'll go. Got all of them.
Let's grab some boards.
Just gotta decipher Bane's notes.
Bane's notes. Bang!
Oh yeah, Kieran, so here's the thing about cooking meth in this game. You have to let it simmer for a bit now.
Just a little bit though. It's only
I want to touch
floor.
it.
God, what the fuck is a sniper scope?
Bro, I have throwing knives. I'm fucked.
I have
you
grenades.
brought your stealth build over?
Why do you not have 2 builds? Even I made 2 builds, and I hate making
I have
more
5
than one.
builds, okay? Leave me alone.
Oh, what is a sniper? This sniper sucks.
Ah,
Wait, muriatic acid, wait.
Are we sure it's muriatic acid?
Yes.
I'm putting in caustic soda.
I think we're safe to keep
Did I just put it in? Yeah, I did.
Okay, so you can put up the windows.
off the scaffold.
Can they break it in this one? I don't know. You said they could?
They can.
I haven't seen them do it.
Because I boarded up the small window. Oh, wait, here we go.
Some milk. No, not milk.
Caustic soda now.
Caustic soda? Yes, okay. I think the first couple ones she does, it's like it's always guaranteed.
How does
Like,
the
it's really
recipe
easy.
change? Wouldn't it always... Oh, wait. It's what order you put them in, not which is
Yeah.
which. Huh, how does that matter? Yeah, whatever.
Oh my god. The sniper sucks!
Why is it so
Yep.
dark?
I leveled up for this! There's hiding
I've
for
just
us,
been
yeah.
using the starting shotgun. And
So,
it's
alright,
good.
here's the thing, Kieran. So once we don't
Oh
grab it
my
yet.
god.
Look, look, it's toenails. Alright.
Yeah.
But keep an eye on it.
Disgusting.
Now we wait for it to turn blue. Just turn around slowly. Also, Kieran, why does your gun look like Patrick Star? Wait for it. Wait for
Oh, they
it.
turn off the power.
Yeah, we could still let it simmer for a bit, I think. Why would that need the power?
Because it's a cooking stove.
Yeah, but you're just leaving it there to sit.
Oh, maybe that's what the sabotage squad is running. Am I lagging?
The power up. Yes, you're frozen in place.
Uh-oh. Did I crash?
You
I
probably
think I
did.
crashed. Uh-oh. Hold on.
Also, this meth is.
Oh no. Yep, server disconnected. Whoops.
Kind of. The game was like teaching people how to make meth. Let's quickly leave.
Shit. I got banned live on stream. The game crashed. Wait, no. The server crashed. Damn it. Why did it crash? And why do I have the entire list of friends in my... There we go. The entire cast of friends. So no one told you life. It's like you're always stuck in second gear. And it hasn't been your day, and life's giving you fear, but I'll be there for you when the rain starts to fall. What should I don't know what perk tree to bring for loud. Reload while sprinting. As long as you have eggs, you can do all this stuff.
Yeah, I've got an
Oh,
OP.
as long as you have eggs, it goes straight into your clip. But I don't know if that counts as reloading. Most of these perks are terrible, but that's because I haven't really read all of them.
Hang on, wait. Actually, since we crash, I can just not use the sniper.
What should I bring? Aiming down sights gives you edge.
Unknown error.
Edge. They put too much reliance on the free things. Edge, grit, and rush. Those things are annoying. There's no baseline upgrades or whatever. Did I invite you guys? Yes.
How many trees are there in GTA 5?
Did they count it?
Yep. There's a lot of trees. There's a lot of tree models.
I thought I invited you, Kieran.
So, oh, my game crashed. I didn't even realize. Oh, whoops. Actually, wait. I wanna watch this video.
Gonna do what?
I wanna watch this video. So there is 5,850 palm trees, 956 oak trees, 27 cicada trees, 832 ficus trees. There's 3,251 large bush trees. 1,037 pine trees. There's a lot of trees in this game. This, oh my god, Nick, are you ready for the final result?
Hmm?
You want to know how many trees there are in GTA 5?
How many?
33,062.
Are you joining, Kieran? 33,000.
And I'm not, because yeah, no, I don't want to join. I want to watch this video.
Oh, you guys don't want to... Oh.
You and
Well,
Kieran can play.
Still Borderlands 3.
Oh wait, I do have Borderlands 3. I haven't installed. Also, I've got no storage on my PS5.
I don't have it installed either.
Probably for the best.
Borderlands 3 story sucks.
It's not about the story, it's about the gameplay.
Frickin' Borderlands 2 had a good story. It might not
Yes.
have been about it, but they still made it good.
Okay, the Borderlands 3 villains are, like, the female is super hot. I don't care what anyone says, I really don't. But, like, she's hot.
It's fine, but that doesn't make her a good character. That doesn't make the writing any better.
I said it was about the writing. You said they play the game for the story. Huh?
You played Borderlands
Is that-
2 because of the guns and the story, because they were both good.
I played it more because it was just a shoot 'em up. I didn't have to feel bad about.
Since you guys aren't playing anymore, I guess I'll play Road Rage by myself. And I'll go public.
Fine, I'll find a game that I can play.
You don't have
I
to
want to
play.
play Fortnite.
Hang on, are you still playing, Karen? Because I invited you.
Oh, actually, social. I didn't get an invite. That's why I'm confused.
Well, I thought I sent you one.
You did not.
There. What heist do you want to play then?
Any. Please tell me if it's loud or not.
There's an armored transport
Well, we're gonna do Road Rage, which is loud.
Back in the game,
Yeah, we'll do a public.
Good to know.
I have not forgotten what you did for me back in San Francisco.
Do it on
It is my
hard.
pleasure
Alright.
to work with you.
Well, I think we'll do one more heist, and I'm probably gonna stop
Information
streaming.
about
It's been an hour 50.
carrying a payload.
Sounds good, my neighbor.
All essential
Gets banned.
materials in the creation
Yes,
of electronic components. As
Well,
I'm
that's
sure
pretty
you
fun.
realize, the cargo is worth a fortune. I want you to steal it. According to the route, the transport will pass Queensborough Bridge, which is currently undergoing renovations. It will give you an excellent opportunity to strike. I already have a buyer lined up for the rare materials, and I will make sure you are generously compensated for your...
Oh, good.
Mm,
We're ready. Ready.
I've got a great. Look at the thing I just put into savers. Do you see it? Question mark. Yes, no? Alright, well, fine, fuck. I thought you could see what I did for us.
How are we supposed... Am I supposed to know what that says or not?
Looks like the diversion worked. The truck should be here any moment. Let's get to work.
We need to grab the electrical thing.
Set up the EMP. When it goes off,
Right.
the truck will be disabled.
Yeah, the EMP, that's what
We're
we're
on the
talking
clock,
about.
people. Approximately 90 seconds until the transport arrives.
Just don't
Make sure
get
the
spotted.
EMP is set up and that no civs escape. Otherwise, we're fucked.
Don't let them rest. Got it. I think they made the interactions a little faster. Which is good,
Oh,
because...
we all still doing. Oh, wait, no, this is
deal with that. Unless they're already on the ground. You see nothing. As to what?
Alright, now we wait.
Yeah.
Grab him.
What are you doing?
You triggered him.
Oh, I didn't. I was
You
walking.
did.
Driver will set off the alarm as
Luke.
soon as he's realized what happened.
Wolf
Get
triggered
ready.
him.
Aye. What about the other guy? Did she go back and get him?
We didn't trigger any other guy, to my knowledge.
I thought they did. The NPCs did.
Not to my knowledge. They
Oh,
definitely
okay.
may have, and that's why I failed this heist before.
Cool as fucking cucumbers. Keep it up.
Where the hell is
The remote
the...
steering device gives us control of the vehicle.
Where is the
Place it on
remote
the
steering
truck.
device? Or do you already have it?
I don't.
We stashed it on the
It'll be
construction
near
site.
you.
Go get it.
Alright.
Yeah.
Hold on. Let me just zip tie these guys.
I'm tracking another assault team. They'll be there in about 30 seconds.
I'm glad you have unlimited zip ties now.
Oh yeah, that's one of the greatest things I've done for this.
They're sending in zappers.
Oh, Nick.
I'm on my way. Calm
Cops
down.
arrived. They don't look happy.
I want to quickly put my sanctuary guns on the vehicle.
Hook me up to the vehicle and I'll start the
then.
override.
One there.
Sniper down.
Did you place it on?
Hang on. There.
Sentry gun here.
Alright, let's do it. So now the sanctuary guns will move with it.
I'm connected, but it'll take a second. There's security in place to prevent this sort of takeover.
Oh my god. I wish I did translate that, but I have no idea how I was supposed to guess that.
Okay, now we can get this truck to where we want it.
Found one.
We're gonna move the truck to the ramp on the other side of the construction site. This fucker's hard to crack, but there's a weakness on the underside. At least one of you needs to stay close to the truck to maintain connection, or it'll stop.
Hmm. Uh-oh. Wow. Oh, damn it. I lost my frickin'
Oh
what's
shit,
it
that's
called?
city.
You shot a civvy.
Well, like I blew him up.
They rely too much on grit, edge, and rush. Like, sure, they're good. But, come on, I want at least some base level upgrades, so I don't have to actually... So I don't have to worry about maintaining all three, because they disappear like that. Like, I'm trying to place a sentry gun,
Setting up a sentry gun.
but I couldn't do it because of the frickin'... We need another track.
Potholes in the truck's path. Find something to cover them with.
Oh, I'm already
Hopefully
carrying
there's
one.
civilians are there.
I forgot I picked up two.
Need to restart this thing. Got another one.
Activate it. Hang on.
Check the construction site for something to cover the potholes.
Yeah, Shade, we got it. Why does this thing have a full keyboard on it with a remote control? The sentry guns are so much more useful because they don't take from your ammo pool and you can sort of just throw them down and pick them back up. They don't just get destroyed and become useless.
Oh, let me get rid of this sniper.
I'm being tased and I can't look behind myself. I think my sentry gun
Setting up
saved
a
me.
sentry gun.
Oh, that's a mine.
Nicely done,
Never mind.
people. But they're still around, so don't relax just yet.
Setting
There are
up a
potholes
sentry
in the truck's path.
Dude, grab that
Cover
ammo.
them with something.
Where is it? Oh.
Behind you.
Yeah.
Quick, grab the sword.
Ah, the French. You got the other ramp? Let me put the sentry guns back on it first. Wait, can I?
There's a forklift blocking the truck's path. Get it out of there.
Forklift.
Need to
Damn it.
restart this thing.
I was hoping to drive it.
Yeah. They have no drivable vehicles yet. There we go.
Sentry gun here.
Sentry gun there.
Hit you. Focus, people.
Come on. Why do I have to adjust so much to place it on the truck?
Setting up
There
a
we go.
sentry gun.
Check those corners.
I should be able to just throw it up there. I mean, I know I probably shouldn't be allowed to throw it up there, but come on. Just let me do it, man.
Here we go.
Hang on, how do I have edge? Did I fire a Freddy Fred shot? Shit. Oh god.
And what did you bring to heist?
Sanctuary guns.
Oh yeah, that's right, that counts as that.
I should probably get them off before the truck gets too close, because then I can't pick them up.
Hostage rescue units are on
Oh, by the way, everything in the armor truck should be unlocked.
The armor truck.
Finally.
Yeah, this.
Now open it
Oh.
up. We're not paid by the hour.
Oh, did you use a favor?
Yeah,
Oh shit, I'm almost
help
dead.
use them.
You didn't take
Oh, poison. I'm not in good shape. Really bad shape, in fact. At least I'm not entirely useless because I brought the sentry guns. Well, that doesn't mean I'm particularly helpful either.
Drill's done.
Almost there. Get those cables exposed.
There we
You
go.
did it. Now get in there and grab the loot.
Yeah, they're all shut
Oh,
here.
that's so nice.
Did you actually equip the favor? Oh shit.
Dude, it's all open.
What is all open?
Look. Come in and just...
Oh, that's what you meant. Okay. How many are toast?
This stuff is fucking essential to make electronic components.
Hang on. Oh, I don't have transporter on this. I have it on my freaking stealth build. So I can't level it up here.
Vile is on standby with the chopper to get the loot out of there. Light up the
And
signal
signal
when
to
you're
get
ready
away
for
for no
pickup.
reason.
All right, now just hold
Oh
on
shit.
until the helicopter gets here.
I'm not in good shape.
Setting up a sentry gun.
Well, if each person could carry 2 bats, you could carry 8. Out, like, to one place.
Vile will touch down on the
Ooh, you know what would be a cool perk? To have, like, a vampire effect?
bridge, the one with
For
the
every
two
place you
big
kill, you heal, like, a little bit?
Isn't that Payday 2?
I don't know.
Oh, it's back, by the way.
What?
That's the one I wanted.
Damn it. I've got
Dude.
no help. What?
I just placed the medic bag on the truck.
Thanks. I need a medic bag.
Ready for action.
Christ, they killed him. And I missed almost every bullet.
Well done, team. But stay focused. They'll be back before you know it.
Armor bag? There. Wolf. Oh, thank you. You jumped an
All
armor
bad,
bag.
yeah.
You. I want to
Oh,
unlock
it's an
the
ammo.
heavy ballistic armor.
Oh.
Not a sentry.
Oh, perfect. What's
We
your
need at
thing?
least 5 bags
Sweet.
to make this operation worthwhile. Anything more is pure bonus.
There is better armor, but I have to do challenges to unlock it.
That's 2 bags.
But yeah, I see what RunRae means, that the challenge system is ridiculous, but it does actually show that people have played the game
That's 3
and
bags.
didn't
Yeah,
just
but I
like...
don't think it's necessary to show that someone's playing the game.
That's 4.
Because it takes
mean-
away from the enjoyment from casual players.
Yeah, but the thing is, it actually shows that they're paying attention or whatever and not just doing the same heist over and over again. And just power
Yeah, but
leveling.
that takes away from someone's enjoyment. It's like, if they don't enjoy a heist, that's the only way they can level up. It's the most unpleasant thing. Forcing players to actually
Yeah.
play a game is not enjoyable.
That's what I think of Fortnite.
Keep moving along the bridge.
They got rid of the daily login bonuses, so now I have to actually do the levels, but all the levels suck.
How the hell is that Dozer so strong?
What else do we need? Oh, there's more? Oh, my sanctuaries are down.
There's more.
1 bag left.
1 bag left. I need to repair my sentry
Can
guns.
you cover me, please?
Those are...
Oh, fucking incendiary.
Are grenades effective against the dozers? Because it doesn't feel like it.
Can I get some cover? Jesus Christ.
Bulldozer's dead. Oh no. Dead. there's the... We got everything. Let's get out of here.
Is that everything?
Yes. I'm about to die. Do I have one down left, or... Oh no!
I think it reset when you picked up the med bag.
No, it doesn't. You have to have the skill to do it. Chains, a little help. Flanker. Thanks. Come on, we gotta get out of here. Get to the chopper. Go. Bro.
Quick, down the scaffolding. Cops are done. Okay.
Let's get out of here. Yeah, we did
Oh,
it.
exactly.
That was fun. I don't know if I'm gonna keep playing though.
Great work, people.
I don't think I would.
Transport never
Yeah.
stood a chance.
I think 2 hours of the stream is pretty good.
Yeah.
And
Keep
look,
a little
we
curious.
65 XP or something. Wow. Ugh. Those who did join the stream, thank you for joining. I've been streaming for almost an hour 50 and I've kind of had enough. That was fun.
That'd be fair.
I'm working on improving the stream probably. Like, I don't know, adding something to make it more entertaining. But this has been, it was RunRae and Kieran, and then it was just me and Kieran. So, but whoever's been here, thank you for joining us. I'm gonna end the stream now. And yeah, I'll see you next stream when I decide to do it. Bye.
Bye.